I met Michael on a Tuesday. That sentence alone should tell you how ordinary it began. He wasn't the type of man I usually talk to. He was a bit older, his smile crooked, his humor dry. But after 3 months of solitude in a small apartment above a gas station in rural Tennessee, I wasn't exactly picky. And when he messaged me on that dating app saying something like, "You look like the kind of woman who survived things," I didn't know whether to be flattered or terrified. We messaged nonstop for 2 weeks. Then we moved to calls, then video chats. And finally, he came to see me. He drove 10 hours from Arkansas just to meet me. I remember watching his car pull into the cracked driveway, dust flying up behind him like some kind of dramatic movie scene. I stood at the edge of the porch, arms crossed, heart thudding. When he stepped out of the car, wearing that cheap leather jacket and nervous smile, I felt something shift. Hope, maybe. He wasn't perfect. He was far from it. But he looked at me like I mattered, like I wasn't broken beyond repair. And that, after years of failed jobs, failed relationships, and one particularly nasty scar both inside and out, was more than enough. We spent the weekend together. We walked by the lake, ate fast food in his truck, and even stopped by the flea market where he bought me a silver bracelet with a missing stone. "For your missing piece," he said. I laughed then, but now I wonder if he already knew something I didn't. By the end of the month, he asked me to marry him. It sounds crazy, maybe it was. But when you've been alone as long as I had, someone choosing you feels like salvation. I said yes. We didn't plan a wedding. We didn't need one. He packed his things, moved into my apartment. And just like that, we were a we. Things were good for a while. Then I introduced him to my mother. Her name is Lorraine. Everyone in town knows her, mostly for the wrong reasons. She was the kind of woman who wore heavy eyeliner at 9 a.m. and smoked in church parking lots. She had a temper like wildfire and a voice like rusted metal. We'd never been close, but she was still my mother. When Michael met her, something flickered in his expression. Just for a second, I thought I imagined it. They were polite to each other. Too polite. At dinner, he laughed a little too loudly at her jokes. She poured his wine like they were old friends. I told myself it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. At first, it was small things. He started going to the store more often, alone. He stayed on his phone late into the night, always angling it away from me. He started complimenting Lorraine more openly. "Your mom looks young for her age," he said once, staring at her legs as she reached into the oven. My stomach twisted. I told myself I was overreacting. Then, one night, I found his shirt in the laundry room. Lipstick on the collar. Not mine. I wanted to believe it was a mistake. Maybe he brushed up against someone. Maybe it was old. Maybe anything but what my gut screamed. The next day, he said he was going to help my mom fix her fence. I offered to come. He said no. Something about tools, too heavy, boring stuff. I stayed behind, but I didn't stop thinking. By sunset, I drove to her place. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't what I saw. Her kitchen window was open, curtains fluttering. I heard laughter. Soft, intimate laughter. I stepped closer, and there they were, her hand on his chest, his voice low and close, their bodies too near, my ring still on his finger. I froze. Then I backed away. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw rocks or punch walls. I got in my car and drove, all the way to the lake where we first walked. I sat on the hood, staring at the bracelet he gave me. The missing piece. It wasn't mine. It never was. After that night, everything felt different. Even the air. The next morning, Michael came home like nothing had happened. He kissed me on the cheek, made coffee, and asked if I wanted waffles. I watched him flip pancakes like we were still in some silly domestic fantasy. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My silence wasn't passive. It was loaded, heavy, and he must have felt it, because halfway through breakfast, he glanced at me and said, "Is everything okay?" I smiled. A strange thing happens when your heart breaks. It doesn't shatter loudly. It crumbles inward, like paper turning to ash. And in that moment, all I could think was, this man is sleeping with my mother. And he's asking me if I want syrup or jam. I told him I wasn't feeling well. He said he'd go run some errands. I watched him leave with that same stupid jacket and the same confident stride. I sat on the kitchen floor after the door shut, my hands trembling. Rage, heartbreak, humiliation. They were all tangled together like barbed wire inside me. I didn't call Lorraine. I didn't want to hear her voice, her excuses. I knew she'd deny it at first, maybe even blame me. That was her pattern. Everything could be twisted in her world, turned, flipped, distorted until she became the victim. She was always the misunderstood one, the tragic beauty no one appreciated. Instead, I started packing. At first, it was aimless, just tossing things into a suitcase, shoes mismatched, shirts inside out. But soon, it became purposeful. I grabbed documents, my laptop, cash I had tucked away. I didn't know where I was going yet. I just knew I couldn't breathe in that apartment anymore. I stayed at a cheap roadside motel that night. The kind where the carpet smells like bleach and old secrets. I laid on the stiff bed and stared at the ceiling, wondering how I had ended up here. How I had gone from dreaming of a future with Michael to running from the ruins he left behind. And still, part of me wanted answers. I went back the next afternoon. Quietly. I waited until I knew Michael was at work. I parked down the street and walked up to Lorraine's house. I didn't knock. The door was half open. I stepped in. Her house was still the same mess. Ashtrays full, dishes in the sink, perfume lingering in the air like a warning. I found her in the living room, painting her nails bright red. She didn't even look surprised to see me. "Didn't think you had it in you," she said, blowing on her nails. "Walking in like you pay the bills here." "Don't," I whispered. "Don't what?" she asked, her tone syrupy. "Don't act like I'm the bad guy? Like your man didn't come crawling to me first?" I stood there, frozen. "You're my mother. And you're a fool," she snapped. "You think love is enough to keep a man? You think a ring and a pretty little smile will stop him from looking elsewhere? Grow up." I took a step forward. "You let him touch you. You let him lie to me while sleeping in my bed." She smirked. "You really think you were the first? Baby, I've been with worse." I don't remember throwing the picture frame. I don't remember screaming. All I remember is the crash. The glass shattering, her flinch, the fury boiling out of me like steam. "You ruin everything you touch," I shouted. And for the first time, her face changed. For the first time, she looked like she didn't have a clever line ready. But the moment passed. She lit a cigarette, leaned back, and blew smoke into the air. "I never asked to be your mother," she said. I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction. I didn't hear from Michael for 3 days. Then he called, and I answered. Stupid, I know. "I miss you," he said, voice soft like always. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." I said nothing. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Please." I told him to meet me at the lake. I don't know what I intended to do. Part of me just wanted to see his face, to hear him say it. to admit it. Maybe I wanted to see if he looked sorry. Maybe I wanted to hurt him the way he had hurt me. He showed up wearing the same jacket. Always that jacket. He stood awkwardly by the water, hands in his pockets. "I messed up," he said. "It didn't mean anything." I laughed. "You had an affair with my mother." He looked down. "She said things about you. Said you were unstable, controlling." My chest tightened. "And you believed her?" I didn't know what to believe. He mumbled. "But I didn't mean for this to happen." I stepped closer. "You lied to me every day. You looked me in the eyes and told me I was your future." "I meant it," he said. I shook my head. "You meant it until she opened her door." We stood in silence. The wind picked up, cold and sharp. "Are you going back to her?" I asked. "No." "Do you love her?" He paused. "No." "Do you love me?" He didn't answer. I turned and walked away. And this time, he didn't follow. I wish I could say things got easier after that conversation at the lake. That walking away gave me clarity. That my spine grew straighter and my heart healed. But healing doesn't happen like that, not when betrayal comes from the two people who were supposed to love you the most. I moved to a town 2 hours north. Small, quiet, full of old houses and slow afternoons. I rented a room above a bakery, where every morning smelled like cinnamon and burnt coffee. The landlady was an old widow who didn't ask questions and talked more to her cat than to me. It was perfect. I got a job waitressing at a 24-hour diner. The pay was bad, but the hours kept me tired, and tired was better than thinking. I didn't tell anyone about Michael or Lorraine. Not even when I was drunk. I became someone else entirely. Just a girl with dark eyes and a fake name on her apron. But you can't run forever. Pain has a way of finding you, even when you change your number and delete every photo from your phone. It leaks through cracks you didn't know were still open. One night, after a double shift, I found an envelope taped to my door. No name, no return address, just my name in jagged handwriting. Inside was a photograph. It was grainy, taken from a distance, but I knew what I was looking at. Michael, standing on Lorraine's porch, her hand on his arm, his head bent toward her, a closeness that screamed of everything I feared. On the back of the photo, in red ink, were 4 words. "Thought you should know." I threw the picture in a drawer and tried to forget it, but it burned in my mind like a scar. Why send it now? Who took it? Why couldn't they just let it die? But the truth is, I wasn't done. Not really. I wanted answers. I wanted accountability. And, in some twisted part of me, I wanted to see if they would look me in the eye and deny it again. To see if they had any shame left. So, I went back. I waited until I knew they were both home. Parked a block away. Walked the familiar sidewalk with shaking legs. I stood at the front door and knocked 3 times. Lorraine answered. She looked older. Not aged, just exhausted. She had dark circles under her eyes, and her hair was tied back sloppily, like she hadn't cared in weeks. She stared at me, like I was an apparition. "What the hell do you want?" "I got your gift," I said. "Nice picture." She didn't flinch. "Wasn't from me." "But it's true, isn't it?" I said. "You're still seeing him." She leaned on the doorframe, arms crossed. "You act like you didn't throw him out. Like you didn't walk away." I walked away. Because I couldn't watch you destroy what little I had left. Don't be dramatic. I stepped closer. You still have him sleeping in your bed. "Is that why you came?" she asked coldly. "To confirm how low I'll go? Or are you jealous?" That word hit me like ice water. Jealous of my own mother. I laughed. Short, bitter, hollow. "No, I'm here because I want you to look me in the eyes and admit what you are. She said nothing. I want you to say it, I hissed. Say that you took him. Say that you knew what it would do to me. She rolled her eyes. Fine. I took him. He's not the first man I've taken from someone. Probably won't be the last. My mouth dried. My heart beat so loud I thought she might hear it. Why? I asked. Why would you do that to your daughter? She looked at me for a long time, then said, Because you always had everything. Even when you had nothing, you still had hope. You still had people who looked at you with kindness. And I had silence. That was the closest thing to honesty she had ever given me. I turned to leave. My legs were shaking. Then her voice, cold and cutting. Don't come back here again. I won't, I said. But I didn't go far. I drove to a bar on the edge of town and ordered whiskey until my lips went numb. I stared at my own reflection in the mirror behind the shelves. My eyes red, my face pale, a ghost wearing my skin. A man sat beside me. Young, clean-cut, a stranger. He asked if I was okay. I told him no, that I'd lost someone. Family? He asked. Something like that. He raised his glass to mine. To lost things? I drank. I drank to the girl I used to be, to the mother I never truly had, and to the man I almost trusted. I drank until the memories blurred, and the ache turned into something quieter. But even drunk, even numb, I could feel it. I wasn't done yet. I had dreams about her. Not nightmares. Not anymore. In my dreams, she was always sitting at a kitchen table, filing her nails, sipping coffee. She'd look up and smile like everything was normal, like nothing had burned between us. I'd wake up with clenched fists and a sick feeling in my stomach. Because the worst kind of hurt isn't the loud kind. It's the kind that pretends it never happened. That morning, I woke up before the sun. I couldn't explain why. The world was gray and damp, the air heavy with an unspoken weight. I stared at the ceiling and whispered to no one. I need to end this. I didn't mean revenge. I didn't want to scream or hurt or break things. Not anymore. I wanted silence, closure, truth, even if it tore me apart, especially if it did. So I got dressed, printed the photo someone had mailed me, and drove. One last time. Lorraine's house looked smaller in the fog. The porch was peeling, the windows fogged up. Her car was in the driveway. So was his. Of course it was. I didn't knock this time. I walked in like I belonged. Like I wasn't the daughter she threw away for a man who whispered lies and touched her where only shame should live. She was in the living room, folding laundry like a normal Tuesday morning. Michael was nowhere in sight. She looked up. Her mouth twitched. You're early. I'm done, I said. With what? This. United States. All of it. She smirked. You've said that before. I took the photo from my coat and threw it on the coffee table. Remember this? She glanced at it. Her face didn't change. And I am tired of pretending like this didn't happen. Like you didn't sleep with my fiancé and expect me to just vanish. You did vanish, she snapped. You left. Because I couldn't compete with you. She stood up, eyes narrowing. Compete? Don't flatter yourself. I wanted your love, I said. My voice cracked. All my life, I wanted you to see me. Not as a rival, not as a mistake, just as your daughter. She flinched. A small thing, but I saw it. I was 16 the first time you slapped me, I said. Do you remember that? Because I wore your perfume without asking. You said I was trying to steal your youth. I don't. And I was 17 when you told your boyfriend I was getting curves. When he looked at me, you blamed me. Her mouth opened. No words came out. And now this. Michael, the only person who ever made me feel safe. You couldn't stand that, could you? You think he loved you? She spat. You think he chose you? He was always looking at me. Always. I stepped forward. Because you made him. She laughed. A bitter, guttural sound. You'll never be enough for anyone. Not with that voice, that face, that neediness. I didn't blink. Then why did you keep me? She stopped laughing. What? If I was just a burden? Why didn't you give me away? Why didn't you walk out like your own mother did to you? Her face drained of color. Don't you dare. You swore you'd never be like her. But you became worse. She left. You stayed just close enough to destroy me slowly. Stop. I begged you once. Do you remember that? After I failed that math test and you locked me outside. I cried all night. I begged you to let me in. She turned away, and you didn't. You let me sleep in the yard. You left me there like trash. Shut up, she screamed, spinning around. Finally something real. You want the truth? She snarled. Fine. I never wanted you. You were a mistake. A bloody, screaming reminder of a man who ruined my life. And every time I looked at you, I saw him. I froze. I'd suspected it, some shadow of it. But hearing it out loud was like being hit by a freight train. My chest caved in on itself. Why didn't you just say that? I whispered. Because I tried. I tried to love you. I really did. But you kept needing things I couldn't give. I nodded slowly. That's the first honest thing you've ever said. Silence. She sat down hard on the couch, head in her hands. I stood there, heart thudding. Michael walked in from the hallway. He stopped dead when he saw me. I looked at him. No rage, no pain, just a hollow sort of knowing. You chose her, I said. He didn't deny it. Did you ever really love me? I asked. I don't know, he said. Quiet, small. That was enough. I turned to the door. Lorraine didn't stop me. Michael didn't call my name. The silence was louder than any scream. Outside, the fog had started to lift. A weak sun broke through the clouds. I got into my car and sat there for a long time, breathing. Just breathing. There would be no justice, no apology, no magical undoing. But there was truth. And finally, peace. I drove away without looking back. And for the first time in my life, I felt free.